Really not to me.
I'll have to try it.
Did I sell you or what?
Yeah.
I was right. For the record, I was always right. Always.
And you think you-
I didn't even say a word. She was like, oh, Kyle was sitting with me.
I need Kyle to sit with me, please.
I be right, man.
If she wants to take her with 1 minute smart, that's not.
You see, I've already popped some in my mouth. I'm about to go into, I'm trying to nice and make. See, I keep.
That's my favorite. I kid you not. Yes, my favorite.
I'll buy a copy.
Okay.
I will buy a copy.
I'm glad you're here. You don't.
Stuff. That's not.
Your offset compensation.
We not here, you want to say?
Room paid.
Yeah, it's on page, so.
We get paid?
We get
Someone you can pay for it. So I'm waiting for you.
I'm willing. I'm willing.
What's how much is the stipend?
What you gonna do? Just like this. What you gonna?
She did already. Hell,
In what committee?
I believe she put the checks. Oh, you were talking about the council, didn't you? Yeah, but you know. Oh, okay. Let's go. Let's go. We're in the North Sea. I don't believe it. That's the secret. I heard it say. I don't know about this purple and gold.
That's the thing.
So we got two. Well, who got six?
I appreciate it.
What else? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Who's my friend group?
All right.
Well, every time outside.
How many kids?
Good morning, everyone. Do we need more chairs?
No, we got it.
Got it?
Oh, never. Oh. Got it.
I didn't know me.
He's trying to.
Yeah, I just kind of all heard. Hold on.
That's kind of how I got to do it. His mom. Back in any activity. So I've been told to take it back.
The hearing is 10:05 a.m. and this February 17th meeting of the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board is officially called to order. First, I want to say thanks to DCP for these beautiful binders, y'all. Look at this. We feel official. Don't have to have all our different ways of gathering information. So inside this binder, you will find the agenda for today. If you take a look at that and let me know if there are any amendments to the agenda. If not, you can adopt the agenda for today.
We did have two resolutions out of committee that are not attached to the agenda, so we probably aren't going to want to deal with them this month, but perhaps they could be on next month's agenda.
You know why they may not be, you didn't order or something?
We didn't have an executive committee meeting this month.
But they were previously on the agenda, right?
But are they unfinished business then technically?
Sure, I mean, I think they were on the January agenda, maybe.
Were they FYI?
Nope, no business.
Do me a favor, Jen. And send an email to APAB@gmail.com and indicate which specific resolution is
Okay.
not carrying forward.
Can do.
Pick that up at lunch.
They are not.
So moving on, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam President, I move to adopt the agenda as published.
A second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Can we do unanimous consent? Are there any, any oppositions to adopting the agenda? Seeing none, unanimous consent to adopting the agenda. Moving on, we have a report from Saturday, January 20th. This is actually the voting record. Please review that. There's also a corrected December voting report attached as well as part of those, as part of that report. Questions or amendments?
Madam President, I move to adopt the voting report.
There's been a motion to approve the voting report for January 20th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
That was. There's been a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, this meeting report is synonymous with voting.
I guess we'll make some consistency. We'll call it, start calling it.
No, I just wanted to make sure I was not missing.
There's a motion on the floor, discussion. Yes, sir.
Do we need to make a motion to approve the amended last month, the amended one that's on here as well? Because right now, they just approved one.
It was approved with amendments.
Was, okay.
Last month, yes.
Never mind. Okay, thank you.
All right, no discussion, no further discussion? Any opposition? Unanimous consent on the adoption of the January 20th voting report. We will now open the floor to public comment. Is there any public comment?
What is unanimous consent? What are the tallies? So I don't know who's doing a roll call.
So we're not,
Is there any objection?
I know, but I'm asking what are the numbers? So we have not done a roll call to establish the account. So
Roll call is not.
we're not doing a roll call anymore.
okay, but in order to establish unanimous consent, you need to know how many people are present and officially establish quorum.
So quorum is established. There are 3, 6, 9.
What I'm saying is that we're not going to do roll calls, then we can't do unanimous consent.
17, Madam President.
We have 17.
So I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. 17. Madam Chair, let's pursue to some new procedures like that. You know, what is that? It's a new rule.
Okay, we'll look that up and And if we need to go back, we can do a different vote. We are now open for public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you. We will now move on to the next part of the agenda, which is presentations and report. Our first report is from the Department of City Planning with a comprehensive development plan update.
Morning, everyone. I'm Nate Hosell. Thank you all for being here on a Saturday morning. As always, I appreciate the volunteer work that you all do for our city. So thank you very much. Again, I'm Nate Hosell. I just want to say you're going to be seeing a lot of me over the next year and a half as we are updating our 5-year comprehensive development plan. I have a presentation, whether or not I can get up there, doesn't matter. It's all in your binder. I have it here too. But it's really a simple thank you for helping us with thinking through the community involvement plan. Me and my colleagues came to you a few months ago and over the past several months asking for any type of guidance or suggestions for our community involvement. So I'm going to hear that kind of report out on what's going to happen over the next few months as we go to the public to update this plan. And then I'll be happy to take any other questions, comments, have enough time for discussion. So again, Nate Hosell, 5-year comprehensive development plan, which we call Plan A. I'll give an overview of what's coming up and then we'll have a discussion. Okay, good. Yeah. First off, our kickoff, our citywide kickoff is at Greenbrier Mall, February 29th, Leap Day, no NPU monthly meetings that day. At 5 o'clock, Greenbrier Mall. Hope to see all of you there. Now we have our first round of citywide community meetings established. We have all the venues booked, we've got all the time secured, and we're updating our website as we speak over this weekend. It'll probably be updated on Monday, but you have the agenda or you have the schedule in your handout. I think the MP chairs also received this a few weeks ago as well. But we are hitting 12 out of the 25 NPUs. We're going to be, DCP will be hosting meetings throughout the entire NPU system over the next 6 months. First round of meetings, we'll have 12 meetings. We'll also have a whole bunch of pop-ups. So 12 NPUs locations for community meetings. We'll have at least 13 pop-ups in the other NPUs. And then we'll flip it again, 13 citywide meetings in the other 13 NPUs. And we do a whole bunch of pop-ups in the other NPUs. So me and my colleagues will be in a lot of neighborhoods throughout the entire NPU system over the next several months. And that's an open house format, the first round. The second round is a workshop format. We'll get into more details about that. So overall, what is the comprehensive plan? It is the official policy document to guide future physical growth and development. And it's about, right now, the current adoption plan, you can go ahead, is about, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times as big as your binders in front of you. It's a large 800-page document, as you can see it voted right there. We are required to update the comp plan every 5 years by state law. We also have a charter requirement. State law sets minimum planning standards or kind of like nationwide best practices. We will definitely supersede all those minimum standards. I acknowledge managing the comp plan update in 2021 that during COVID was extremely challenging to have public involvement. We are going to go above and beyond what we have been doing in the past, I would say probably two decades or so for this next comprehensive plan. And I would say too, and if the commissioner was here too, I think she would say this as well, this is a major significant update. We have a lot of things going on in the city right now that has significant policy implications on how our neighborhoods in the city will develop over the next generation or two. Tree protection ordinance, the zoning ordinance refresh. All of those things are happening right now. Affordable housing crisis. So this is a major significant time. In my kind of professional kind of opinion, this comp plan is a major update. And I really hope you all spread the word in your neighborhoods to get all of your residents to participate. So go ahead. Now, if you had 2 hours of free time to either hear Kyle's presentation last week in person or watch it while you're drinking coffee like I did, he'll mention that the charter looks different since 2017, where the comp plan was kind of on top. Well, Atlanta City Design is now embedded in our charter since 2017. It was a visioning document to kind of get us back on track, thinking about the future, a generation or two from now, what Atlanta could be. And it provided a whole bunch of ideas, introduced a whole bunch of things. It's a framing document, and I just want to, yeah, Kim, I just want to point out that the comp plan, I think you got it. It's okay. The comp plan sits between that framework and implementing things that actually physically touch the city. So framework, zoning code, Eloise's Invest Atlanta's economic development programs. In between that is the comp plan. In between that are all your neighborhood plans, policies that kind of take these vision documents, get it down to another level, and then we implement that through our zoning code, through our economic development programs, and other things like that. Comp plan is a policy for this group here and for residents over the next several months. The comp plan, which we're focusing, I'm the comp plan guy. Kieta Holmes, Director Kieta Holmes, is the administrator of the zoning code. She is updating the zoning ordinance, plan, policy, zoning ordinance tool to implement. And I will keep on saying that over the next 6 months. So, here you go. Vision, planning, implementation, are city changing. Okay. Now, as a long-range planner, I know the things I do now will still be living and doing things after I retire. I know that. I mean, I look at my predecessors 50 years ago, this year, my predecessors were doing the first city comp plan, using the NPU system as a means to get people involved in that planning process. Downtown, big programs like historic preservation, ideas of transit-oriented development around these emerging MARTA stations, those were big themes in the 1970s comp plans. In the 1980s, we were thinking about like how did, this impact fee program was just kind of emerging. It doesn't have programs around it. It was introduced in the comp plans in the 1980s, like we should have a program around how do we fund fire stations and parks using impact fees for development. And if you actually look at the 1982 comp plan, you see a little blurb there, like, what do we do with Atlantic Station? I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My family moved from Pittsburgh to Ohio in the 1980s. The steel mills were collapsing. My neighborhood was decimated. That steel mill was dragging its feet in the 1980s. And people working on the comp plan was like, what do we do with this place? We should make it a mixed-use development. But 2000s, early 2000s, finally, or 1990s, 2000, Atlantic Station popped up. 20 years later. And you see that too in the 1990s comp plan. You see this closure of a street bridge in downtown. We should make that a part of our pedestrian bike infrastructure. You see that now in Nelson Street this past year. It took that long to do it. 1993, 1994 is this green space plan. Neighborhood advocates and professional planners were like, what do we do with this rail corridor that's just dilapidated? We should make this kind of like a cultural pedestrian ring. That was embedded into the mid-1990s comp plan, and then finally emerged as the Beltline as we know today. Summer Hill decimated by lots of bad policy in the past, the Olympics. Planners were thinking about how do we think about Summer Hill neighborhoods and other neighborhoods decimated over the past several decades. And you see talks about Summer Hill development quite a bit in the 1990s, and you see what we have today on that main street. So again, the point here is comp plans are long-range plans. Ideas in them come from all of us in this room, and you never know which idea gains traction to actually get funded, programs surrounded by it, new nonprofits like the Beltline emerging because of ideas in this plan. That's how important this plan is. Go ahead. Now, I'm an MPUD planner for 6 years now, Jim? So I enjoy that neighborhood. That part of the city, it's changing a lot. And I know that MPUD uses a comp plan, whether it's a developer or a lawyer representing a developer, flipping to, this land use is okay here, to the MPU going into their neighborhood policies, which are in the comp plan, to make recommendations to council. as well as local decision makers. I know council uses the comp plan every time they think about a rezoning. Okay, yes. So let's highlight the community involvement coming up. On our website, atlantaforall.com, you'll see our community involvement plan. Again, thank you very much for guidance on that. I don't have to read through the goals and objectives, but it's online for you. It's a living document, so we'll keep on updating it as we move forward. Okay. 2 rounds of community meetings will happen over the next several months. After our kickoff on February 29th, Greenbrier Mall, 5 p.m. March and April, we'll have a round of community open houses. Those are those meetings I was saying in those 12 NPUs. It'll be in the evening, 4 to 7:30. Be an opportunity to look at a whole bunch of boards, think about ideas of how land use, development patterns should be described across the city, in my neighborhood. It's a way to think about development patterns, to start talking about them, getting feedback from you all, hearing about what does this comp plan do when it comes to land use. And then we'll have a citywide series of workshops and the other NPUs. And those are roll up your sleeves, new land use map in front of you, converting the existing land use map into something new. And so those are very important workshops to get organized, your neighborhood groups to get organized. If you're in the middle of a neighborhood small area planning effort right now, I may not be aware of it, but it's probably a pretty good way to organize your NPU or neighborhoods to come to these workshops. I think we can have 10-minute discussion afterwards.
You have about 3 more minutes.
Got it. So that's May and June. And like I said, we'll have a whole bunch of pop-ups in between those meetings throughout all the neighborhoods, as much as we can, get out there. You'll have opportunities to ask me or my colleagues for a Zoom call in the evening, or I'll be in the library working at the city hall for a day. We'll make sure that you all are aware of that. Hey, I'm in your neighborhood working, feel free to stop by and talk to the comp plan. We'll have plenty of NPU meetings, presentations, or updates after July. You can go ahead. Okay. We're going to have drafts that we'll be presenting to the NPU system during those late summer, early fall months. We'll continue to do education materials on our website. We'll have surveys on our websites as well. And there'll be 3 drafts, and I'll highlight the 3 draft periods for now. Go ahead. Kickoff, March and April, this round of community open houses. May and June, those workshops. The first draft of the land use chapter will be presented in May to you all before those workshops. And then we'll start going into kind of NPU presentations for those land use chapters with another draft probably late July, which would then go to legislation in the fall to adopt that land use chapter. There's a whole bunch of other chapters in the comp plan, transportation, housing, things like that. But we're going to tackle the land use chapter first, perhaps the neighborhood planning chapter, which I'll highlight at the end of my presentation. We'll get that adopted first, and then we'll update all the other chapters of the comp plan for another round of community meetings. And hopefully have the full comp plan adopted in May 2025. Go ahead. Whole bunch of outreach, atlantaforall.com, keep up on that. Me and my colleagues, I have about 100 or so right now in recruitment. I think there's 40 or 50 volunteering their time on at the kickoff. Me and a whole bunch of people from DCP, our partners and other departments, will be there staffing, volunteering at the community open houses, workshops, and pop-ups. You'll see a whole bunch of people with orange t-shirts. And we'll also coordinate all of our engagement with the MPU 50 celebration this year. Okay. Again, comprehensive development plan is a unique word, as Kyle mentioned. We're the only city that says comprehensive development plan because we've been doing comp planning for a very long time, like 50 years. And the NPU system has been integral as part of that comp planning process. If you look at the 1975 comp plan, the first chapter is citizen involvement. If you look at how we reorganize the current comp plan, the last chapter is neighborhood planning. It's purposely bookending this idea that 50 years ago, the NPU system was nascent. It's emerged as something that is great for the comp plan process. Neighborhood planning, small area plans are important. NPU policies are important. That's how we implement the comp plan back to the neighborhoods. So that last chapter, that neighborhood planning chapter, is something that we're going to work on over the next several months as we think about the land use chapter. And if we're in a good spot to adopt that neighborhood planning element or chapter, we'll do so in the fall too. Because the next step after May of 2025 is to start a small area planning program. You know, not these ad hoc small area neighborhood planning processes, but actually a system to think about updating small area neighborhood plans consistently in between the 5-year updates of the citywide comp plan. Go ahead. Kickoff February 29th. Please come. Go ahead, Kip. Community open houses in your packet email and I'll also follow up. Just to remind everyone, citywide, but we're hitting every council district and we're hitting every MPU through the 2 rounds. Okay, Kip. And here's just a diagram picture. The blue, green are the MPUs where we'll have citywide open houses, and the orange is where we'll have workshops. Okay, Kip. And thank you.
Thank you, Nate, so much.
And I gotta take a photo for documentation, because we're gonna be doing a lot of documentation of being transparent.
And I'll take some photos too.
While
Go
you're,
ahead.
while you're doing that, I have a couple of comments and questions for you before we open it up to the floor. First, I just want to say thank you so much for making that distinction between policy and tool, the plan and the zoning. I think that's something that we as APAB members can go back to our MPUs and use as talking points for this plan. The flexible groups, that's an amazing idea. And also, there are only so many planners, so what are the limitations on that? How can people schedule? Are there a minimum number of people that need to participate in order to have that group come together?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get maybe some more, maybe I should talk to you, Segura, about just how do we accommodate the MPUs, especially the leadership of MPUs, during these kind of smaller group discussions that are ad hoc. We are prepared in the Office of Design to be at libraries, to work with our Zoom channel to make sure we have a Zoom room available like on a Monday. Like all those community open houses are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's some weeks that are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like we're going to be out in the neighborhoods a lot during the weekdays. So I kind of kept Mondays available for Zoom calls and maybe even Fridays. But they're really kind of brainstorming sessions before you're coming to the workshop or working on your MPU policies. So I would like to get some further guidance on what would be the best way to sign up. Do we include NPU? Can I say the neighborhood organization wants to come in and talk about NPU X policies? Like, well, did you talk to the Segura or Zach at NPU X before you came? I don't know who the leadership is right now specifically, but you know, I don't know if I would want to feel comfortable talking to a neighborhood organization that wants to insert or change NPU policies without the chair being there, or at least being recognized. They understand that they're coming to talk to Nate about brainstorming ideas to change things. So we can work on details like that, but I'm totally open to suggestions. But we will bend over backwards to provide accommodations to meet on Zoom, small group discussions at the library, community room. We'll have some sort of schedule set up online, maybe 2 weeks in advance. Let us know if a small group needs to meet with me and Catherine, my project manager. Another thing we heard from APAB was, can we accommodate kind of local tours? Maybe we can meet at like Ponce City Market area and walk around, or have a room in Ponce City Market and then maybe walk around afterwards and look at areas that are mixed use that have various densities going on. So we're going to try to accommodate that as well somehow in between the meetings.
Thank you. And one last question. You said MPUA ambassadors, and I know Commissioner Prince sent out an email. How can people, whether they're involved in the MPU or not, if they are interested in this, sign up to be an ambassador or to volunteer?
Well, from the neighborhoods, from our perspective, you know, we have like 100 DCP, ATL dot, some CIDs that will kind of be trained or at least kind of get prepped before they come and like facilitate small group discussions like during the workshops. But for the MPU ambassadors, I would just say it's more of a loose thing. Like, be a positive person to get your residents out to the meetings. Spread the word. Be an ambassador for the process. If they're like when the survey comes out or the workshop mapping sessions come out and you feel like maybe a group of us from our NPU needs to get some training so we can help people navigate the survey, or help people get prepared to talk about land use maps, like what is this category, what is that? I think we would be open to having like mini training sessions, maybe over Zoom or something, if there's a need or a request from this body or some NPUs to just have a quick training session on this. I think we can accommodate that.
Yourself?
Thank you, Nick. I had some questions about the logistics of the meeting. So you said there'll be 12. Is the content going to be the same in all of them?
Yes.
So you don't need to go to all, you can pick one.
Yeah, the idea is that round one leads to round two. What are development patterns? What are land use patterns? How do we describe them? How do we define them? Next is like applying them on a map and policies in the chapter in the comp plan. So they build on each other. So I hope people can come to both rounds, 1 and 2. If you can't make it to the one down your street some night, make it to the next week's meeting, please come. Now, there might be more maps, just to kind of get just comments or feedback, kind of like sticky note comments. If I'm in, NPUF at the Presbyterian Church that night, I'll buy some extra maps because I know that map is going to get dinged up a lot. But there'll be an NPUX map. There'll be an NPU8 map there in case you are coming from another part of the neighborhood. We also were able to accommodate all these meetings on separate nights except for 2 nights. We had a double book. There's 2 nights on that schedule where I have 2 meetings going on at once. So there'll be like, over 100 Plan A ambassadors from DCP in between 2 meetings because we're really trying to accommodate 6 participants for every 1 planner in the room. Really trying to have small groups, kind of like that student teacher ratio. So yeah, if you can't come to one down the street, you can come to one next week, go ahead.
And so just to kind of understand, so you said you're going to be inventorying current land use or desired changes or both?
We start with the current land use, and then we start asking for any comments on changing that land use map based on this
Okay, and
process.
are the categories going to be the same in the future? There's not going to be like a new.
There will be a new category because of the new zoning code need. So that will be introduced over the 2 rounds of meetings, this new policy. Now, I didn't have a slide here. 1980s comp plan, 1970s and 80s comp plan introduced land use categories. And then my predecessors in the early 2000s introduced early 2010s character. And then under Commissioner Keene, another layer of policy, awareness and designing. There's 3 layers of policies, all have really good strengths, all of them have weaknesses, and all of them together creates. We're going to revamp it because the zoning code is 40 years old. It has gone through 3 of these types of changes of thinking about how the city should evolve. This new zoning code has to have something that can support it for the next 20, 30 years. And based on the expertise of the zoning code writers, Nate, you all need to figure out a new land use category system. There's a complete conversion that we're working on. So if you're single family now, you'll be like a single family designation. If you're mixed use medium density now, you'll see a map that says medium density mixed use. It's up to all of us using maybe, we've already inventoried all the small area plans that your various neighborhoods of the city have adopted over the past 10 years. Some of those land use changes have not been implemented. We'll highlight that for all of you. So you'll be able to come to your neighborhood, or you'll be able to come to these meetings, these workshops, and you can see like, wow, oh yeah, I remember that Beltline sub-area master plan 6 that recommended changes here, here, and here and never were done. They're on the map as recommendations. Thank you, Nate and Catherine, for doing that. We agree with that they still should be changed, or no, they shouldn't be changed. So that would be there.
That interact with all the discussions you've had about the new zoning, about the streams or whatever?
So all of that stuff will be there during the workshop series. So we'll have zoning code updates. Director Combs will be in charge of that. But yes, there will be an alignment, and we will know when we're looking at the new land use map, what that means for the potential new zoning code in the future.
Ms. Hawkins, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. My understanding 21, I think I saw earlier, there was submissions to the CDP, and then there's a 5-year mandate. what happened in 21? Why 21 was significant and now we're what, 25, which is a 5-year statutory mandate submission?
We were required to update in 2021, and during COVID, it was like really hard to do all this great engagement. So it was a quick update. Like
So 21 was a 5-year mandate?
was a 5-year
Okay.
mandate, and we know that this is a major update, so we're starting well before 2026.
But submissions can be made at any time, is that?
Yeah, but in practice, it really hasn't done. I mean, we update the comp plan every quarter when there's land use changes on a map. So you all always see, right, some sort of zoning request, and there's sometimes an accompanying future land use change. That technically amends the comp plan. Every year, Rashid and his group does the CIE. That's actually a chapter in the comp plan. It's updated every October. So it actually amends the comp plan. But in terms of like policies, NPU policies being changed in between the 5-year comp plan update, it is rarely, if ever, done.
All of this is based in part on, isn't there a projection of like 1.2 million new residents by 20? And then there's ARC that's saying 800,000. I mean, is there a real conflict there?
There is not a real conflict. The minutia, I just will quickly say, Atlanta City Design is a framework aspiring to something that doesn't exist. That aspiration, when it comes to the population projection, was, hey, the city of Atlanta needs to be a stronger part of the region. A stronger core means more people. Right now, we're at 7-8% of the region's population. The aspiration of Atlanta City Design was 14%. Thus, you see the 1.2 million expected growth if we were to aspire to that framework. The reality is, as a long-range planner, I go back to demographers. ARC is our demographers. They just published their population forecast for 2050 2 days ago. I know that that's closer to 700,000 by 2050. That's the number that I'll be using. That's the number we'll be using over the next several months.
Thanks. Are there any other questions? Mr. Martin?
Yeah, from the MPU perspective, the business end of the CDP is the future land use map and the zoning land use compatibility table.
Yeah.
And with regard to those two things, there have been quite a few sub rosa changes to the zoning land use compatibility table over the years. Are we going to move away from that habit? And with regard to the future land use maps, there are a lot of aspirational aspects in the CDP that perhaps those are not compatible with, but I have seen planning staff recommend reactive changes to the future land use maps to accommodate zoning that were claimed to be consistent with the CDP. And I don't understand how anything that requires an amendment to the CDP could be consistent with the CDP. So are we going to sort of sign off on this new future land use map as being what we really mean?
And it's good to me. Jim asked me the toughest question. I don't know if I can answer that coherently right now. That's the second question. I understand it. The first question, I do want to point out that we are going to the NPUs in the fall for recommendation to support the land use chapter update. That is something that my predecessors have not done. To Jim's point with the compatibility table, that doesn't come to the NPU for approval, right? That's what he's getting at. This will come to the NPUs for a recommendation for a vote. And we'll come back in the spring to ask the NPU recommendation for the entire comp plan update. So that is something new and different. That's what Jim is getting at there, that first question. The second question, Jan, let me think more about that and let's have a conversation. And I will be prepared with an FAQ for everyone so I can properly answer that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Nate. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to everyone coming. Greenbrier Mall, February 29th. And feel free to email me at plana@atlantagA.gov.
Will you share, excuse me, will you share, I have additional questions, but I need to frame it. Will you share those questions and answers so that we all see them next time?
If you have comments or questions, there's a way to submit a comment or question there. I'll work with Leah on a follow-up email if we need to clarify anything else.
Okay.
For this week. There'll be plenty of opportunities to pick all of our brains over the next time. All right. Thank you. Lisa, I think you're up next.
Appreciate you.
All right, Nate.
We will move forward with the next item. We have Dr. Eloisa Clementage, President and CEO of Invest Atlanta. You have 2 minutes of presentation and 2 minutes for questioning.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, you did a great job. You woke everyone up, so thank you for that. So well, as we get our presentation up, my name is Eloisa Clementich, proud president and CEO at Invest Atlanta, and Ms. Latisi is one of our board members. I'm excited to be here and just talk a little bit about and present some of the things that we do at Invest Atlanta, some of our programs, and then we'll go into engagement. I'm going to introduce Michelle, and then I'll open up to any questions you may have. Okay, so Invest Atlanta, the board at Invest Atlanta, you have the slide. Okay, no worries. The board at Invest Atlanta is a 9-member board. The way it works is mayor gets to make 3 appointments, city council makes 3 appointments. 1 comes from APAB and one comes from APAB. And one is a business. So we have different types, and the whole purpose of this is to give us a different frame and different interests so that we can create the best policies we can for the state. So APAB representative is the amazing Ms. Lovers, so I want to thank her for her leadership. She has actually instituted several differences in terms of how we communicate to each of the MPUs, and Michelle will be going through that. So I want to thank her for her input. So our vision and mission really is to make Atlanta the most economically dynamic that we can, but we really want to do this through an economic mobility lens. And so when we get off to the next one, you're really going to see our mission and our vision and our strategy is really focused on how do you create an Atlanta for everyone. So we'll go to the next slide. Invest Atlanta, one more. We'll get there. Here we go. So I love to see, well, okay, before I read, if you knew of Invest Atlanta before I started, how did you know us? We're giving tax breaks. Okay, all right, fair, okay. Funding projects.
I knew of you all because of the first time home buyers program.
I love that program. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Allocation district.
Yay, okay.
Southeast Quadrant First Time Homebuyers Program was large.
And did you know we actually funded the Goodwill on Metropolitan?
No, I didn't.
Yes,
No,
we
I saw
did.
it
We
there.
used 2 tools on that Metropolitan and Goodwill. So these are the type of tools. I usually ask crowd because everybody will know for something different. Either a small business loan or they got a down payment assistance. So I always tell people, think of us as 2 sides of the house. So one is you're gonna have the economic development side. This is the side that looks to attract companies to the city, and you'll see us putting some incentives on the table. You'll see us helping current businesses grow. So we actually have a team that's out walking the streets, talking to businesses about, hey, do you know you have a facade improvement program? Do you know, for example, I don't know if you saw in city council, we just got approved from finance. We created a rapid response loan fund. So we want to do that, and we're going to take it to the businesses that have been impacted by Cheshire Bridge. They're closed, I mean, they're open, but no one's coming. At least to help us make payroll. So these are the type of tools that we try to create very, very quickly to help not only attract, but how do you grow our current businesses? And I'm going to talk about some of the programs that we're doing
Dr.
there.
Secretary, failed to mention the owner occupied.
Right, well, I haven't gotten to the other side of the house, but I want to get to this side of the house. This side of the house is the owner occupied rehab program. We just launched that program as well. This one is a great program where we actually go in and do critical repairs for seniors, head of household, disabled, veterans can come in and fix their homes. That has been a tremendous program for us. We also do commercial corridors. Someone mentioned the TADs. We use the tax allocation districts everywhere else in the world. They're known as TIFs, tax increment financing, but Atlanta is different. Okay, no one. All right, I believe they're different, so that's why we call them different. And then we'll do all our housing initiatives. At the core, Invest Atlanta is an authority, the main umbrella. So we issue bonds. So you'll see us do bonds for housing development. That's what we use, the different type of tools. Okay, so that is the heart of who we are. Let's go to the next slide, because there's nothing like, I kid you not, this economic mobility strategy is real. We have it in our metrics. We measure it all the way down. I know. Go to the next slide, exactly where we are investing. So you're going to see us do through these 5 pillars. So I'm going to update the projects that we do through these 5 pillar lens. Next slide. So If you haven't seen, yesterday on Thursday, I actually launched our digital annual report. No techies? Okay, I thought that was cool, but fine. This is gonna be an opportunity. We put the whole annual report on, we stories, we interviewed people, we put maps. You'll be able to drill down. Go to the next slide. So you'll have a map like this. I know this looks crazy, but it's good crazy. This is all the projects that we've invested in. So you'll be able to hover over and go like, hey, well, what was this? Who got this? Who did this? What did you do? Was it a small business loan? Was it a down payment assistance? So you see this one here, this senior relief, this one's a cool one, I just have to tell you. So the thought process at Invest Atlanta is really thought about how do I create more vehicles to get more funding into Invest Atlanta so we can put more money out. So one of the things we did is we worked on creating outside of Invest Atlanta, sort of like the Beltline partnership. We've created Invest Atlanta and the Invest Atlanta partnership. So when Tyler Perry called the mayor and said, hey, I want to pay all the senior back taxes, mayor calls Luis and says, we're paying all the senior back taxes. That is wonderful. Please tell him not to say anything yet because I have to go do some research. But you tell a rich man to not say anything. That didn't work, obviously, but we were very happy to accept the money. And literally it was through the Invest Atlanta partnership, but we were able to get out, pay over $5 million of senior back taxes. That had to be the best day ever. Some people had back taxes of like $36.22. They could have lost their home for 30, that just blew my mind, but we were able to pay them off. And so that's why you see all of the dots of where we were able to. Okay, next slide. So this is our toolkit. So the next two slides, you're just gonna see all our toolkits. So this is why if you're like, what did Invest Atlanta do? Who's that? What tool? These are all the different type of tools that we use. So I have this idea that if, my dad was a auto body man. He said, hey, give me a screwdriver or go give me a hammer. Like, you could potentially take the screwdriver, turn it on the other side and use it as a hammer. But the hammer is going to be much more effective, right, if you want to do something. So in my mind, you'll see Invest Atlanta applying for every single tool I can so that we then have more ability to address more issues in our city. So these are the first tools. Go to the next tool. These are other tools. So from downtown payment assistance, owner occupied rehab. We'll do CPACE. This is a brand new program. We've had to go to the legislature twice to get the legislation, but this provides a vehicle for business owners to be able to do energy efficiency in their building, to finance that. And so we are now coming in. We just approved our first two items, on Thursday. We will be able to come in and monitor how much energy are you using today, how much are you using in the future, and we'll be able to say how much water we're saving and how much CO2 we are lessening. Next slide. So let's go to creation of good jobs. So this is just some high-level statistics. Next slide. That just talks about the viability of Atlanta. People want to come to Atlanta. They love coming to the city of neighborhoods, your neighborhoods, and we're seeing it. But why are they coming? When I ask businesses, why did you decide to open up your doors in Atlanta? The number one reason is, this is a tactic to make sure you're waiting. The number one reason is, thank you, but no. No.
Tax breaks.
No. Workforce. The workforce, right? And the diversity of the workforce, it's amazing. We got the AUC Center Schools, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, SCAD, Kennesaw. They're all right here, and they're producing this great amount of talent that's diverse. They're not seeing that diversity in other parts of the city. So this is really driving this excitement that we're seeing in the city. And the airport, whoever said it. People love the airport. Next slide. So these are some of the companies we've been able to work with. So when you think of Invest, remember I'm on the economic development side of the house on this one. So these are different type of companies that we've worked with to try to help them. One of the things that we do is the state gives a tax credit for anyone who's hiring in certain areas of the city. So these are called opportunity zones. So this is no impact to the city, but these are some benefits that you can get. So we were actually able to call, so this is why you see Slutty Vegan on there. So we were just calling people saying, hey, did you know you're in a state designated opportunity zone? Are you taking advantage of this opportunity? Yes.
Is this Metro or the city?
This is city.
Rivian's, not Rivian was out the country.
No, they have an innovation center right here.
Um,
Yep, we have the highest concentration of corporate innovation centers in the nation, and I will continue to say that until I get proven wrong. We have over 34 corporate innovation centers
what is
right
the
here.
corporate industry?
So think about like, sometimes these big companies say, oh, I want to innovate, but it's hard for them to innovate inside, so they create these smaller units outside where they're doing the innovative ideas. They're thinking of something new, and they're all within a 5-mile radius of Georgia Tech Technology Square. They're all right there, and they're really pulling these great new ideas, and you need this innovation to fuel growth in business. Next slide. So this is how many wins that we've been able to do from 2010 to 23. We consider a win anytime we touch, we deal with, we talk to, we help, a business license, we help bring you information. Those are the number of businesses we've been able to attract, touch, fill, and jobs that we've been able to influence in our city. Next slide. Am I running out of time already?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is now gonna be the speedy Eloisa, and if anybody has any other questions, so small business is core. Go to the next slide. This is how many businesses we help. You don't need to know I have 11 loan programs, okay? If you have any business that's interested in a loan, have them call us. Why should they call us? Good question. What's the average interest rate right now? If you were gonna go right, what do you pay on your credit card?
29-30%.
29%, right? A loan for business about 9 to 12%. How much is invested plan us?
7.
No, we cap them at 3. We're usually around 2%. Why do you want to call investment plan? Because we think it's all right, next slide. So these are the type of next slide, and I'm just gonna move you now fast. We also keep going because I'm over it, but we also do technical assistance. This is new for us. We really changed the way you used to have to go. They told me I don't have enough time. Let me just finish and then I'll come back, because I'll go get you into the Q&A. I get 2 more minutes for Q&A.
I see your hand.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought it was around the question time because of the.
It's 10 minutes for presentation,
I
10
know.
minutes for questions.
Past the 10 minutes.
Oh, God, let me just get to the end, and then I'll be quiet. We now have offices
3 minutes.
outside of 133. So we've changed the way we thought. We just said, don't come to us, we'll come to you. Okay, go quickly. Let me just go through. These are type of programs we have for small businesses. If you want to buy your business, this is a new one. I have to talk about this one. This is a new program. If you know any local business that's ever thought of buying, now is the time. I will give you up to $250,000 to buy your property in the city. So it blows off at the end of 10 years, so you could get about $125,000. Think of those legacy businesses that have been here for years and years. Those are the ones we're going after. We've never had a tool like that. Okay, next slide. We will skip week because I have no more time. We skipping, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. These are the type of projects I fund. Goodwill, gap funding, that was one of our projects. We use new market tax credits, the shelter, these are our tags, keep going, running. These are the type of projects we do. So multifamily, parks, facade improvement. Next slide, At Promise Center. So these are the facade improvements that we actually do in some of the corridors. Next slide. Affordable housing. Next slide, because I'm running out of time. This is the number of units we've done. So 71% of all the units we've been involved in, affordable. Next slide. And these are the projects that we've done. And that's where I'm going to end. The owner occupied rehab is open. Anti-displacement is coming online. Watch that. That is going to help freeze the taxes. If you've heard the freeze tax program that the Beltline's doing right now, and the west side, we're going to have a pilot area on the south side. And I will open up, be quiet for questions. Oh, and I never even got to the amazing Michelle.
I am the community engagement specialist for Events Atlanta. I've been with the organization for almost 12 years. Very happy to be here. Just look out for me on your meetings. Also emails from me letting you know what will approach, as we approach our board meeting, what will be on the agenda. And I will also be reaching out to you to make sure that you're involved with our annual homeownership event. Hopefully we can get you guys out and representing your MPUs to home buyers that are coming in. That's it.
And that's Michelle's job, is to go to all of the NPUs. So if you have any questions, she's always available to come to your NPU.
Thank you, Michelle. We have Mr. Hunter and then we'll have Mr. Martin. Thank you, Dr. Clementage. On that activity map, you mentioned that people would be able to, it's interactive, they'll be able to see information. One of the things I'd like to know is when people get there, will they be able to see the letters of recommendation for the money they received, as well as the votes from the NPU, like how they support or don't support, the reasons why, and what entities have supported them and what they specifically supported them for?
It usually just has information about just the program that is and address and what they received. It doesn't have, if you want that level of information, then you can find it on our board docs. Every item and every vote will be listed there.
Well, I recommend that there at least be a link to that so that people don't have to go and dig for it, because that's not the public's responsibility to have to dig through that. And
Okay.
I think people want to know if someone is receiving that money, then who supported them and why, and what it's actually supposed to be used for, based upon those letters of support and recommendations. Mr. Hunter?
So I have two questions. One, I think it's easier than the other. One deals with businesses. For example, AT&T, their headquarters in Dallas, but their largest workforce is here in Atlanta. They have more employees in Atlanta than anyone else. How do you all account for things like that? That's a good story to tell. Although their headquarters, wherever they are, their workforce is here in the city. I imagine other major businesses like that. The second question I have deals with tags. And you talked about equity as being part of your metrics with all your programs. And I would say that is one area that I feel there is a lack of equity. I'm in PUP, Southwest Atlanta. I think we were the first in a very long time to close our tag, last one, which is Princeton Lakes. But as everyone may not know, you can't create a new tag in Atlanta because they're over the number that we're allowed, percentage. And there are tags that have been opened that really should have closed until they went beyond the time. And no one wants to do it. They don't want to close because they enjoy the benefits of that tag. But then other areas that are starving for development that could benefit the tags don't get that opportunity because we have other tags that, in my opinion, are being really stingy. And it's just, they are developed really well and they're doing well. So what is the position that Pennsylvania is going to take? Let's say, okay, tag B, it's time for you to close and to push that. So that other areas like Southwest Atlanta, because there is no tag now in Southwest Atlanta. There's barely any tags below 20. When are we going to say, okay, it's time to close it down so there can be other areas of investment?
Yeah, so we do, all of the tabs have an end date. So as long as the debt is paid, and most of them are coming up due within 7 years, so.
How many have been renewed?
Well, it would still require city council action, 1. 2, we do what's called a completion report on all of our tabs. Every 2 years, we do a completion report, which then analyzes, is it time to actually close the tab? And so I would say within both of that, not only the end date, as long as there's no debt, it will end, and then the completion report. And the realities will be, it will be up to community and city council on where the next tabs are in other parts of the city.
So I want to know, do you all take a position and say, well, I know it's not your decision, but do you all take a position, is in that report that says, okay, West Side tab, it's time for you all to close?
Do we take a position? We will follow the completion report.
Well, I'm more like Upper West Side, not West Side.
Okay.
I'm coming over closer to the gym side. I'm coming over there. But I'm just saying, like, do you all take a position? Now, whether or not it's advice, whether or not it's followed, I want to know, are you all saying, no, this is becoming, inequitable? Like, it's time to close this tab.
We will probably not take a position. We will follow the completion report. We will make recommendations like we have. One recommendation we've made and the city council accepted as well was on Atlantic Station. We said it probably does not make sense for us to invest any more into this one and pay off the debt. The only reason Atlantic Station is continuing listed as the tab is because it has debt on it. It took a lot. I mean, it was interesting. They talked about it in the comprehensive plan. it took a lot of money to come in and clean it, so there's a lot of investment made at the beginning. So some of that debt is still being paid off, but we are making no more investments in that task. There's no more money going out. Any money coming in is going off to pay the debt. So we made that recommendation, city council agreed, and so we're just paying off the debt on that one.
But there also is no tags in Southwest Atlanta. There are no tags in Southwest Atlanta, like, NPUZ X would really benefit. They're starting for development, and that would be a great economic tool that would help the schools, help the area, but we can't do it because Atlantic Station is still open.
Well, it's not even Atlantic Station.
That's an example, that's one of them, yes.
The reality, the one tab that has to close for us to get back into the tab would be the Beltline tab. That's the largest tab right now, generating.
Let's close it up.
Well, it will close in, I think in 7-8 years, that tab is scheduled to be closed.
So can we get copies of that report, the completion report?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. And we make a presentation to the city council, they require it as well, I think the last one we did
I
was.
watched it.
We'll move on to Mr. Martin and then, Ms. King.
Yeah, I have a question about lease purchase bonds. Over at Development.
I'm sorry, which one?
Lease purchase
Oh, yeah,
bonds. Over at Development Authority of Fulton County, they're sweeping enormous amounts of public money out the door, hundreds of millions of dollars for no public good whatsoever. I know you've asked them to stop, we've asked them to stop, city council's asked them to stop, school board's asked them to stop, and they're not stopping. And their activities are undercutting your activities because they're giving away a lot of this money in tags that's defunding those tags, among other things. Yet when there was a movement to stop that practice at the Board of Assessors earlier this month, I saw you there defending the status quo. And I'm wondering why it is that you were doing that, and do you really believe that Invest Atlanta can do as much good with these tools as DAFC is doing harm? Because it seems to me that they're not even close.
I feel that the tool, it's sort of like, and I'm trying to think of a better way to say it, and don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. There's probably another nicer way.
Yeah, I heard that at the meeting. I mean, that baby drowned in that bathwater a long time ago.
But the reality is that you have a tool, and the tool is important for us, I believe, to bring in some affordable housing that we desperately need in the city. Not one tool is going to solve it. So we need a breadth of tools. And if you've seen how many we've done, we actually pulled the numbers. In the mayor's term, we've done 4 lease purchases. I do not use the tool very often. And if I use it, I'm using it for 3 of those tools. 3 times it was for affordable housing, and once was for a manufacturer that we were trying to keep in the city. So I believe that we use the tool. I do a lot of due diligence. I'm doing my best to ensure that it's providing the benefit that we want. I just didn't want that tool to go away, and that's why I was there.
Because your 4 deals were paralleled by about 40 or 50 deals over at DAFC, pretty much all of which were bad deals that cost us a fortune.
I can only talk about what I can control and what I do and what I'm committed to. I underwrite these very, very diligently. I'm going through each of them, and I use it very sparingly. But I use it when I have no other tool. You made a good point. I'm sorry, you made a good point in Southside. I don't have another tool on the Southside. I don't have a tag, so I can't pull from other tools. So if I'm going to get that affordable housing, I'm looking at my spectrum. That's why I pull that toolkit. And I'm like, okay, strategic, what do I got? How do I make the impact? How do I bring manufacturing? How do I bring more affordable housing? So all I can talk about is what I can do.
One comment, thank you for meeting people where they are. I think one of the comments I'd heard early on about Invest Atlanta, people that would apply for loans, they're working 2 jobs and trying to figure out, and office hours didn't work for them. And potentially maybe a mentorship could be in there somewhere. Somebody's filled out the application, but they need that hand holding to get it done, and maybe that's out of office hours. So thank you for doing that. On letters of support that MPUs, this has been a new thing that I've learned this past year as chair. Letters of support, do they come back out? Like, we put one in, we found some more research, we're hearing more stuff. What happens if we as an MPU say, okay, we want to pull our letter of support?
I would say if you want to pull, well, can I first go on your first one? You said mentorship. We have hired a business liaison because I agree with you completely. I had a lot of businesses saying, at least I still don't get it. I don't have time. So literally we have sessions at night and on weekends where we say, bring your laptop. I kid you not, bring your laptop, fill out the application. Let's go. Okay, everybody find one, and then you have to notarize one form. We had a notary in the room. Okay, let's go get notarized. Let's enter the application. So being a lot more proactive. On the letters of support, if there is a letter of support that's submitted and you need to change it for any reason, I would say your main contact would be Michelle, and I want to thank her for changing her schedule to be here with me. So thank you, Michelle. Send it through her and we'll get it through to the team. We try to hear from the NPUs on our projects to ensure there's alignment. Now, I will tell you that it is a recommendation into Invest Atlanta. We will hear and listen. We will let and notify you. And you have an amazing board. I'm not just shouting out because you're here, because Ms. Glover is amazing. We have now where you will receive, because of Ms. Glover, Michelle will send you your NPU like, hey, there is an item on the Invest Atlanta agenda. Just want to make sure. Now, you won't get it until Tuesday. Now, some of you may say, well, can you get it to me earlier? But in the Invest Atlanta board cycle, we have committees on Thursday. Finance meets on Tuesday. That once the item passes finance, then it goes to the board on Thursday. So I really can't send it to you before Tuesday because I don't know if it's going to be on the agenda or not. But as soon as we know it's on the agenda, you'll be receiving an email from Michelle saying, hey, this item is in your NPU and it's on the Invest Atlanta agenda. At that point, if you have a comment, you want to come, we do public comment as well. You could submit letters, you do whatever you want to let us know. But we'll also.
Is it started already?
Yeah, Michelle does it. For how long have you been doing this now?
October,
Oh,
I believe.
yeah, Ms. Glover asked us to put that together.
I'll leave my business cards here for you.
Thank you. Ms. LaRue has a
Quick comment. To Ms. King's question.
Okay.
One of the challenges that we get a lot in my office is concerning NPUs wanting to change or rescind their letters of support is usually related to the fact that they don't get the application. They're asked to give a recommendation on a project, on a concept really, because the applicants or soon to be applicants are presenting the concept. The NPUs are asked to vote on it and make a recommendation, but they don't have actual details of the application. And then that comes out later. And sometimes they feel deceived. I've heard that from some of the members, or they feel like, everything wasn't made available to them, because on the city side, although we acknowledge it's definitely not perfect, but on the city side, we actually give them the application so they can ask informed questions.
Okay.
So I just wanted to kind of update Rebecca's question with that, Ms. King's question with that, and find out if there's any resolution or any.
First, yeah, let me take that. I don't think there should be a concern. Let me just find out if there's anything in their financials or anything, but maybe that's kind of stuff we could take out. Let me just find out what the process is. So when your idea is that they would present maybe more of the information, developer actually comes to you and makes the application. Maybe they submit the application that they submit to us.
Yes, because that's how not this board, but the NPUs, that's how the NPUs operate. They get actual applications and it doesn't go on their agenda except it comes through the city. The city can file the application with the city, we stamp it, then it goes on the NPU agenda.
Okay. I put that as a follow-up.
Thank you.
Mr. Sluker?
Thank you.
And then Ms. Hawkins, one.
All right, hey, hi, Joe Silner, NPO. Thank you for your time today. I know you had to race through your presentation here. I didn't see anything about technology investment as part of your core priorities. Is that involved in Invest Atlanta? Because I do think broadband access, those types of things, equipment, STEM, all those types of things. What's that? Yeah, those types of things are also tools for empowerment.
Yeah.
Beyond just affordable housing and all those other things as well. Where do you sit with that?
So usually when we talk about technology, I'm gonna talk about the ecosystem. So we just approved an item for 300,000 for ACES, which is a new ecosystem to drive more innovation within the city. But with broadband, usually we will not be directly involved in broadband investments. I know that the Beltline has put some black fiber underneath the Beltline, but other than that, don't have other information. But typically, we're not involved in connectivity in terms of infrastructure for broadband in the city. We will with the ecosystem. So you'll see us involved. We have a technology innovation individual that is out within the ecosystem. We have the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative that help for women entrepreneurship, but other than that, no, not an infrastructure.
Ms. Hawkinson?
Yes, ma'am. Is failure to obtain or receive a letter of support from the community or the NPU, is that generally the death knell of that application?
We will take recommendations. So if we get a letter back says we don't support this, we'll bring that to the board and we'll discuss it, but an item could pass even though it has been not supported by an NPU.
Sometimes there's no letter saying we don't support this, just simply no letter moving forward, period.
We asked developers to try to attempt twice to make a presentation and get a letter. If they attempt twice and are not able to get on the agenda, so we say, we want to see the emails. So we want to see your communication and we'll reach out to the NPU and say, did you actually, what happened? What's going on? And in that case, then we say, we'll hear it anyways. But we really, and kid you not, we really do ask for the emails. We want to see those emails back and forth. There has been some time when developers have been trying to get on agendas and hasn't been able to.
My question more narrowly, if the community doesn't support it, doesn't send anything forward to your office, and the response from the applicant is that we didn't get the support.
She
What?
didn't
answer that, yes. It was the answer.
Well, we could support it.
Oh, okay, I got you. Nonetheless.
We could.
Okay.
There have been instances where the communities, several members have come out and said that they do not support this project, and we've supported, the board has decided to support it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hunter.
I just wanted to add one quick thing. I don't want to seem like I think that you will do great work. And I just want more of it on the soccer 20. And that's my point that I was trying to make.
I'll take the good word, yes, thank you. But I agree with you. And I just want, we're focusing, mayor's like keenly focused on the south side. I hope you guys saw we have a whole grocery initiative. I even talk about that, the whole RFI, have you seen that? Yeah, we're asking for a whole RFI, grocery incentives, we are pushing, but we're trying to eliminate food deserts. So we're being very, very aggressive on innovative solutions, hopefully some of that. All right, thank you, sorry, I went over.
While y'all are clapping, please do not let applications go to Invest in Land without a recommendation. That makes my job so much harder because then I get calls from them that like the NPU is being difficult. It makes it harder for the people sitting next to you also. It makes it harder for the NPU system, period. If you don't support the application, document that and let them go on. Don't let them go into committee forever for months and months and months because you hate the application. Moving on, tell them you hate the application and move on to the next item, please. I'm telling you, it makes it harder for your people sitting right next to you.
Just one quick statement. I sent some emails out this past week for people who got information about applications to make sure that you got them. And when you receive them, please respond to me. I want to make sure all of the emails are correct that Invest Atlanta has. That's the checking that I'm doing. Thank you.
Speaking to that, I sent out a calendar invite for today's meeting, for meetings for the rest of the year. Those are the correct email addresses for the board this year, and I will also share the directory that city planning put together to make sure that you all have the correct information. Please don't make that information public unless people give you specific, explicit permission to share their contact information, especially your phone numbers. Thank you.
then your email address as well.
When did you send this
Don't give up.
I'm sorry, what's that?
message? Said?
It wasn't a message, it was a calendar invite. Email. If you didn't receive it, I'll talk to you offline about making sure we have your correct contact information.
You can't see your first, your, no,
Sorry, what's that?
which email did it come from? I don't know.
APAB Atlanta. Yeah. Okay. I'll check with you all on the directory to make sure we have your correct information. Don't laugh at me.
Let's go bullhorn.
There were,
I need the bullhorn,
there
yes.
were a few names that could have been heard, so. You know.
Yeah, I we were able to throw that in. So anyway, we are on next item. Strategic planning. Oh.
And all this down there, just project.
I'm trying, sorry. Okay, APAB strategic planning.
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
Ooh, child. All right,
10
so,
minutes, right?
I don't even need that unless y'all take that. I don't need that because we have gone through, so much and made so much progress along the way. I won't do the recap unless anyone specifically needs me to. That's a bit of a time thief. The proposed standard procedures, standard operating procedures outline is this document. It looks like this. It's just a list. This is what we intend to put in the SOPs. We are also working with the existing, the current bylaws committee to update this outline to include items that will come out of the bylaws and will be items that are more appropriately suited for the SOPs than they are for the bylaws. So we'll work on that. We did circulate this 2 months and got no feedback on it, so we take that as a green light and stamp of approval.
And Leah, just so that I read this document correctly, the list that I'm looking at here basically are chapters of the document that will be developed. Is that?
Hopefully not chapters, but yes, sections.
Sections, yes, okay.
Yeah, our goal is to use as few words as possible to be effective.
It's probably good to also mention that this is probably the first SOP that we composed in conjunction with the bylaws, is that correct?
First since I've been here.
Yeah, and the essence of it is to avoid the minutia in the bylaws. Is that
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to know and understand that.
Yes, I've stated that, and Debbie has stated that as well. Okay, so the next item, and this is really important, especially now, it's more relevant in today's discussion than it has been before, but this is the communications loop. Every time we start talking about committees, which I think President Jones will get more into, but every time we start talking about committees, there's this question of how new business gets introduced. This was in response to some of the concerns about how APAB is actually producing recommendations and how you are conducting the business of the board. So this document right here, it says standard operating procedures for critical task draft 2. You've already seen this. There's nothing new on this except for in the back that says the city department provides an update to APAB within 30 days. I feel like that was on there last month as well, but in any case, this is the flow of work from the time the member, it starts with the member introducing an issue at the board meeting. The topic is then referred to the committee of purview. The committee then does its work to submit a recommendation to the board, and the board then considers that recommendation. As far as staff support goes, after the recommendation has been made by the board, the president provides that recommendation to DCP. DCP then routes the recommendation to the Department of Purview. We track the recommendation for a response, and then we route and post the response. Route and post just means we send the response to you and we post it on the website as well. As far as citizen participation is concerned, the city department, and as you know, DCP is going first with this kind of to not just set the precedent, but to demonstrate what it should be. The city department will present the engagement plan to the board. APAB will provide feedback to that department. The city department then incorporates that feedback and provides an update, if relevant, within 30 days. And then APAB provides a formal recommendation on the plan. So if that sounds a little vague, as an example, this is what we did with the APAB community involvement plan. We had them come out in, I think, September of last year and present a draft plan. We gave you all 30 days to give, pardon me?
You mean Plan A?
Yes.
You said APAB, okay.
What I say?
I said APAB, you mean Plan A,
I
right?
said the community involvement plan.
For Plan A, right?
Yes. I said DCP
Okay.
came to APAB with the community involvement plan to present that and got y'all's feedback. And then the following month, they came back with the feedback, like this is what we heard, and then began to implement the engagement plan. So we're hopeful that other city departments will, especially as this board becomes more efficient and more effective, we're hoping that other city departments will follow suit and do the same. The elections, standard operating procedures, you all have already seen that. We updated this with the feedback that we got and with how the election was conducted last month. So please review this and give feedback. It is not, we hope to have the feedback before next month's meeting, but this isn't especially time sensitive since we hope it'll be another several months before you have another election. But it will go in the SOP manual. And then lastly, and I saved the one for last that we'll have to do some work on, is the board composition and structure draft 3. The first page, no discussion necessary unless y'all just want to discuss it. But pages 2 and 3 is where we anticipate some discussion. We did have a transition meeting with the incoming, with your now president, President Jones. And this, I hope, represents the discussion that we had. We are recommending a policy committee, and that committee is more so focused on following, paying attention to what the city council is doing, what the mayor's administration is doing, and giving recommendations on those items so that it's not that the council is doing their thing in a vacuum. Y'all are not weighing in on it at all, sometimes until after the fact, if at all, but actually following what council is discussing and debating, following what the mayor's office and his administration is discussing and debating, and making recommendations on that and keeping this board abreast as well. Then, of course, the quality of life committee focuses on matters related to livability, transportation, housing, urban design, historic preservation, utilities, parks, rec, etc. And lastly is the governance committee, which will focus on things like bylaws, nominations, any processes associated with rules of engagement, the operational policies, strategic planning, etc. The only thing that has changed in our recommendations at the end is that we added here, which it existed already in the bylaws, we just transferred it to this document, that the president appoints committee chairs. President Jones wanted to ensure that any member, whether you're on that committee or not, can participate in a working group. So if the committee forms a working group to examine an issue and you are specifically interested in that issue, but you're not on that committee, you can participate in the working group, even though you're not on the actual committee. That's correct, right?
Non-voting. You can participate in a non-voting.
In a working group?
In a working group, you would have voice and make the recommendations, and the committee would take that recommendation, formalize it with a vote by the existing committee members.
The committee members themselves.
The committee votes, yes. And then lastly, the committees have 7 or 9 members because and there was a discussion last year sometime about the number of members, so I just added that here. But every member is appointed to a committee. And that's it. Did I capture everything? Good.
Just want to make note that if this wasn't just me, this was based upon conversations that Vice President Stopchinsky and I had as well. She just couldn't be here today. And this is looking back at information that we discussed over the past year, as well as being able to have some conversations with some of you all. My intent is to have a conversation with each one of you all about how you want to see APAB moving forward. But we've had transition, so just know that we'll all be having conversations. So some of this is based upon information that we've received from folks as well. And there is a lot of consensus about how APAB wants to move forward. There hasn't been anything too divergent in the conversations, just to let you know.
That's it. We are open for more feedback and more conversation.
Hi, Leah. I read through this.
Happy birthday, Mr. Schlubner.
Thank you, Kim. I meant that was you. So my question is just on a clarification around the policy committee versus the quality of life committee. When I read the focus statement for the policy committee does, it says citywide policies and proposed policies, but I think, and again, I'm not here to wreck this structure. I'm just here to get clarification on, does the quality of life committee also deal with policy as well? Is there overlap there? Is there like, is it, once the quality of life committee says, hey, we have a concern about public safety transportation and this particular policy, then goes to the policy committee to kind of adjudicate that, or?
Yeah, so there is a little overlap. And what I said in my head to kind of make sense of it is that the quality of life committee is more neighborhood and community member led. So the neighborhood is present, or members of the board are recommending or bringing issues to the board based on their own observation. Like, hey, this has been a problem. I heard it was a problem over there. I saw them talking about it at this meeting. It's a problem and we want to raise it to the city's attention. As opposed to the policy committee, these are conversations that are already happening by the decision makers at the city. These are conversations that council is having, and conversations that the mayor's administration is having, or more so than conversations, actual policy that's in progress or pending. The board is then weighing in on those issues. So one is more person-driven, community-driven, community-led, and the other is more 55 Trinity Avenue-led.
Would you say proactive, reactive?
Yes, I like that. Hopefully a little less on the reactive, but yeah, that's a good distinction. One is proactive and one is reactive.
What do you do already?
What do you do already? That was a good question, Mr. Schlubner. Thank you.
And what I'm also hearing, and some of my interpretation of this, and I open a discussion on this, is if there's a quality of life issue, very reactive, like you said, and we need to help citizens address that, we can, but also, is there a policy that needs to be in place to help implement that? So do you need to go to a certain city council committee meeting in order to help get a policy in place to address it so it's not systemic? Or is this kind of an acute issue that we can address through a recommendation?
And I would also point out that the president will refer matters to the board. Matters that are raised here under new business will be referred, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say to the board, will be referred to the committee of purview. And I would assume that if there is an objection to the committee that it's being referred to, that objection could be raised during the meeting and say, we really think this should be referred to XYZ committee instead.
I mean, I can imagine things can be dual deferred.
And they could certainly be dual deferred, yep.
Ms. Stout?
So what is our assignment? Is it to provide feedback on all this yellow?
So it would be amazing if we could get the feedback now in the meeting, because this, as you remember, is it's the third draft and it has been in front of you for several months now, since last year, I think October, if I remember correctly. So I think it's kind of time to move forward so y'all can get to work. And I would love to get some sort of either a motion to move it forward or then it's in feedback. Yes, the yellow is what has changed or been.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say.
To be clear, actually, let me say this. Nothing really changed except the policy committee. The yellow is what was added to the document to give clarity. Some of you asked for more clarity and had questions, so we tried to add that in here, but nothing changed except the policy committee. And that's really just the name of it. The function is the same.
So at the risk. I'm sure there's nothing here that's outrageous, but since the time I got here, we've had presentations. I haven't checked my email since 4 o'clock yesterday. If we got this by email, it came after 4 o'clock yesterday, and I don't think that you can ask us to study on Friday night, so
Did you have something to do Friday night?
Yeah, we had
It's date night.
You know, I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mrs. Dowd. My apologies,
Date
Mrs. Dowd.
I have to cross town.
I'm doing a time check, you all. Okay, Mr. Hassan, go ahead.
Just a point of clarity, it says each committee has 7 or 9 members. Is it meant to be 7 to 9 members or 7 or 9?
7 or 9 is what I meant.
Okay, so what is the exact reason for 7 or 9 specifically?
Odd number, and it's the number of the people on the board, potentially.
Why can't we get substance?
Ms. Stout, Ms. Basile has been acknowledged.
Would education fall under community development, like school matters or policy? Where would it fall?
Quality of life, but
Quality of
again,
life, okay.
education, the city of Atlanta doesn't have purview over education. That's the
Well,
Atlanta.
City of Atlanta have a joint committee with APS, so I was thinking.
Understood. I mean, it affects the quality of
The
life.
City of Atlanta have a joint committee with Atlanta Public Schools.
So what you would do is if there's a specific issue that you want to raise or the APAB to address, you would then raise it as an issue, and then we would refer it to committee, whether it be quality of life, or we need to create an ad hoc committee or a working group. The point of the way that the bylaws are structured currently is to give us the flexibility to address the needs as we deem fit at that time.
And really to ensure that the board is working on things that the board can affect change in. That the board is spending its time to be effective and not just having like the community club environment where we're thinking up all these issues we can tackle, as opposed to having a strategy around what issues you want to focus on.
Ms. Hawkinson?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Stout, I've taken into consideration her understanding. She maybe did not receive the yellow kind of updated highlights, but I think we've been discussing this now for, and I would dare say ad nauseum, but I would like to move forward unless there's, I'd like to move forward and recommend that we adopt this new direction.
Making a motion.
Is that a
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, let's move forward, movement, motion, is synonymous. Yeah, I'd like the motion to move forward that we adopt these, the new structure of our committees pursuant to our discussions over time.
Hold on a second.
Oh.
There's a motion on the floor to rescind the motion.
To adopt and to incorporate into our new board composition.
There's been a motion and it's been properly seconded by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Motion, please.
There is a motion on the floor and has been properly seconded to adopt the board structure and composition as has been presented. This
Adopted as what, as a SOP?
Adopted into the record as now the new structure, new committee structure as we will be now living out within this board
It's just
structure.
as all the other items from strategic planning that y'all have adopted. You adopted as the guidance and direction for the bylaws committee to then write the bylaws per whatever document y'all
Or that's.
accepted. It's the same thing that we've been doing since April of last year.
Yep. So is there a question on the motion? I know you had your hand up.
Thank you. I was going to second, but I would clarify in the motion that, make the motion say that you are accepting the draft that was presented.
Today, this minute.
That way, that'll clear up all this question about this one and that sentence and whatever.
Yes.
This is what was presented.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
We can have that one.
So draft 3.
Draft 3.
You have a question?
Are we establishing the new committee structure, or are we asking the bylaws committee to incorporate this new committee structure into the bylaws?
So actually, we don't have to incorporate these names into the bylaws. The bylaws state that we create our committees. And so
So,
the motion is to use this structure as.
so we would be establishing this new committee structure by supporting this motion.
Correct.
And I presume then also we would be dissolving the old committee structure
Correct.
in that same act, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm sure these are likely to show themselves in the SOP as well.
Correct.
And the population of those committees will then happen sometime after this meeting by email exchange?
So we will, not we. Department of City Planning will create a poll structure for you all to use, so you can rank which committees you want to choose. The idea and the structure is that everyone will be on a committee. You can give your preference, and then Ms. Stopchinsky and I will review those requests and then assign people to committees based upon the way that they're ranked. Estelle, did you have a question about the motion?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have the same question as Jim. We don't need the bylaws changes yet to do this? No.
Okay.
But there probably will be bylaws changes.
Well, I think we already changed the
Already-
bylaws in a way that allows us to establish and expand committees without amending the bylaws.
Correct. Mr. Schluter?
My only comment is, could we possibly change policy committee to governmental affairs committee? Government affairs committee, or is that too late?
Like that.
Too close to governance. Did you read governance?
I did not mean governance. Governance is different from governmental affairs.
Yes, I like governmental affairs.
I don't know. How does that work?
Maybe when the committee meets, it can recommend
Right, I
some
was gonna
name.
say, like, I don't know.
Maybe we can do that afterwards. I don't want to wreck the process right now.
Right.
Don't want to wreck the train, huh?
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
I'm sorry, can I just ask for one more point of clarification here? We are, in this motion, we are endorsing a plan of action, or are we creating committees?
Creating committees.
Because
believe it's
this-
both,
This has been the plan of.
It's both.
It's both, because this has been the plan of action on the table now for a while. And so this is the third iteration of it, and we've been in this nebulous place for a few months now. And so we're actually trying to get to the point where we actually have a structure. The beautiful thing about the way the bylaws are created now is if next month we say, you know what? This policy committee is not actually working. We need to change this to something else or remove this and decide on what we need to do. We have the flexibility to do that versus having a very set named committees in the bylaws that we would then have to do a bylaws amendment for.
I also think, Michael, that what we have here are all of the prior standing and ad hoc committees that can be, what's the word I'm looking for, will fall somewhere within those three broad categories.
Yes, I absolutely understand. I'm just asking from a procedural perspective. So, and again, In the agenda, we are, this is covered under item 7, unfinished business, the committee structure vote.
Correct,
Fantastic.
correct.
Thank you.
But since the motion has already been made and properly seconded, we're doing it now.
Or was that item 7, Michael? Was that
Items, Article 7B.
Article 7?
So we can go ahead and move forward with the vote. We'll do it by roll call. And so we're starting with Ms. King. Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Mr. Thurman,
Yes.
Ms. Glover,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Khalil,
Yes.
Mr. Dodds,
Yes.
Ms. Stout,
Yes.
Mr. Schluter.
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
In favor.
Ms. Hines,
Yes.
Ms. Flowers. Yes. Mr. Hassan.
In favor.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
And Mr. Kessler. Yes. All right, we have a board committee structure, y'all.
Hey.
So exciting. Thank you for all your hard work on this. And again, remember, we have so much flexibility that we can determine our needs, whether it's through ad hoc, a standing committee, a working group. So don't feel like an issue can't be addressed, because really the idea is we want to address the issues. We don't want to be so stuck on a committee. We want to address the issues and then figure out the best path to do so. So in the interest of time, Mr. Bernie has to leave at 12 o'clock. So I am requesting someone make a motion that we can do the parliamentarian introduction now before new business.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett.
Second.
Thank
All right. If there is no objection, the motion will be adopted. Since there is no objection, the motion is adopted and the the agenda is amended. So I'd like to say thank you to Kyle Kessler very much for all of his work as parliamentarian in this last iteration of APAB. One of the things that we have all discussed is that when we have a board member that is a parliamentarian, we're missing their voice as that MPU's representative, and the MPU is missing having their voices, their concerns addressed or their opinion addressed because of the neutrality of the position. So this will actually be Mr. Kessler's last meeting as parliamentarian. And new parliamentarian being appointed is Mr. Ruben Bernie. And Mr. Bernie, would you like to introduce yourself?
How you doing?
We know Ruben.
Some of you know me, I've been involved with the NPU system for 30 years. I'm a former chair of NPUX. I am a former member of APAB. I see that there have been a lot of changes. I know some faces I do recognize, some recognize me. And there are a lot of you that are new to me, and I look forward to working with you again.
Can you tell us something about your parliamentary experience?
I have attended the workshop that was presented by the planning department in the planning. Y'all know what I'm talking about. NPU, right.
Yeah.
And I've served as parliamentarian for NPUX on a number of occasions, as well as various other committees throughout the city.
Are there, Mr. Bernie, Mr. Hunter?
Most of our question for DCP. Can we get him a different binder? I think that one he got is it purple and gold?
All day long.
Yeah, definitely need to get him a new one.
Only you noticed.
No, we don't need anything new. Good as we are.
We'll get everyone a purple and gold.
Yes.
Yeah, can we take
But
off?
glad to have you here. He's in a fraternity.
Oh, I know.
No.
Okay,
Well,
because we have to.
Because I don't want
Oh,
people
yeah,
to
no.
forget their binder next month and all of that. We'll collect them.
Purple Golden Vega.
Yeah, it is.
Certainly take the.
Glad to have you here, by the way.
Thank you. And I would like to give Mr. Bernie a special thank you because he is volunteering his time, just as we all are, but he's not a member of APAB, and he's doing this in support of APAB. And it's okay if I tell them what you said, what you asked me?
Go ahead.
So when I called him and asked him if he would participate, there was a long hesitation. And I knew he was familiar with APAB, and I said, not the APAB of old, and he said, not the APAB of old, okay, I'll do it. So,
Okay, now, part of my hesitation
Define old.
is that I do some volunteer work on Saturday mornings with my church food bank. So I decided that I would give up one Saturday a month in order to support the service.
thank you so much, we appreciate it. Can you spell your name?
RUBEN. BURNEY.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so moving on to new business. We have created our new structure. So I put this on the agenda because this was brought up last meeting about dissolving the existing committees. Debbie and I poured through the bylaws. We could not find anything in the bylaws that stated that we actually have to dissolve the previous committees. There was only a section about dissolving ad hoc committees, but for due diligence, I put this on here. So if you all want to dissolve those.
I think we did as part of the motion that Gloria made.
Okay. Well, then let's move on. So the next thing with that is we still have lots of bylaws work to do. And so our bylaws allows us to create ad hoc committees or ad hoc actually working group. And so the recommendation is to create an ad hoc working group so that they can continue the bylaws work. Mr. Hunter?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to establish the bylaw ad hoc working group.
There's a motion on the floor to establish the bylaws ad hoc working group. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Basile. I'm missing your
Balil.
I'm sorry. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Question.
Mr. Martin.
Would that ad hoc working group then be members of the governance committee, or is that TBD?
Governance.
So that the people that you would be appointing to that working group would by definition also be members of the governance committee?
It's an ad hoc group, so if I'm not mistaken,
It's
the bylaws, you can appoint these ad hoc, and if they're willing, I'd like to keep the people that are on there just to continue keeping the work. Mr. Ross was on that committee as well, but since he's no longer part of APAB, we would need another person to volunteer to participate.
Madam Chair.
I can see that committee.
If I may make a suggestion, I suggest that you couple the discussion of who populates that group with after you've done the survey to determine who wants to be in what committee. After you appoint the committee, then figure out who's on the working group. That's my recommendation.
I'm just going to just point out what we adopted. You do not have to be in the committee to be on a working group that is a part of a committee.
Correct.
We adopted that. So the answer will be no to his question. Not necessarily. Doesn't mean you're not going to governance committee.
Right, but it would be the governance committee that would actually be the voting members on whatever's coming out of that. So you're right. So we need to get those, get you all to get your selections in so that we can find out who's going to be on the governance committee and who actually wants to participate in the ad hoc bylaws if it's created. And then they would be able to then take that up to the governance committee. Any other discussions on the motion? All right, let's take a vote.
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes.
Mr. Thurman?
Yes.
Ms. Glover? Yes. Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Galina?
Yes.
Mr. Dodds?
Yes.
Ms. Stout? Yes. Mr. Schultner?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
In favor.
Ms. Steins?
Yes.
Ms. Flowers? Yes.
Okay.
Mr. O'Connor? in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Phillips? I mean, yes, and Mr. President? All right. So local liaisons, and then it's 1. Thank you. The motion carries 17 yeas, no opposition, and 1 abstention. Okay, so moving on to unfinished business, proposed amendments that we have bylaws. Ms. Kopczynski cannot be here. Mr. Kessler will provide an update, please.
So just a general sort of update, the bylaws committee met 2 weeks ago to continue the work of trying to conform our ever evolving bylaws into the template from the municipal clerk. That remains a work in progress. We had conversation about what we just did related to the committees and making sure that that would sort of move through. Is there anything else from the committee? Of significance?
We did make several additions and or edits. I'm trying to remember if there was anything in the committee itself.
There's no action from the committee to be formally presented for a vote for just to continue to work through transition of information into the bylaws template. And we intend to share both the template as well as a sort of cheat sheet of where stuff is moved from our existing bylaws into the document, what has been produced to fill in blanks or where we've identified that there is no applicable information, as well as anything that might be removed from the bylaws because we've been transitioning more to standard operating procedures or other sort of documents that are more flexible than the bylaws themselves.
I guess my question was, so it's going to be a wholesale submission to the body of all of our subsequent amendments, is that correct? I thought we were doing it in pieces, like we would finish a section, we would then discuss it with the body to see if it would be adopted at that point. So that's not how we're doing it.
So I think that's what we've done so far to get these pieces done. I think now as we're basically ready to transition into the template, we'll present all of that transition work at once.
I forgot about the template. That's part of it.
And so follow-up question to that is, does anyone here actually have the bylaws in a Word document? You do? You found it? When we talked, you said, oh, you said you didn't have it.
I have one as well.
I told you that, yeah, I
Okay.
actually said.
Okay, thank you, because working off. Anyway, so the idea is that, correct me if I'm wrong, moving forward, you all will have full bylaws that have been updated and changed, so you can read it in progression instead of piecemeal, so you can see where things make sense. And then also be able to holistically say, oh, wait a minute, this now doesn't make sense to me because I'm seeing it in relation to other things. And then also seeing it within that template format so that you can see where some things may be required or some language may be had that isn't typically part of our bylaws, but are part of the template. And in some of those instances, you'll see some very generic language to indicate that it's not being left blank on purpose, essentially.
And so we share that PDF.
Which PDF?
The associated with that.
Number one.
I thought you said you. I
You
thought
have
you
that
said
already.
a PDF version of the bylaws.
Word.
I'm
And
sorry,
that's
Word.
that's
That's
for Debbie and the folks that are actually doing the edits.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about some other format that you're using, sorry.
Okay, any more
My
questions?
nemesis.
Any more questions about the bylaws report? All right, so we've already voted on committee structure, continuing with unfinished business. We have Christine Lloyd here, who is, has been recommended for NPI for ACRB. So, Ms. Lloyd, please come on at work. Oh, okay, you can go up front.
We got it months ago.
So, sorry we don't have the bio again from Ms. Lloyd. It was sent a couple of months ago. What we can do is send it out so you all can see it again for those that don't have it, or if you all need it again. But Ms. Lloyd, if you would please give us a little information about yourself, why you're qualified to be on ACRB and why you want to be appointed to that board.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Glover for recommending me for the position. Secondly, I am a retiree from the City of Atlanta Police Department. I have 31.6 years of employment here. I am a retired first sergeant with the Georgia Air National Guard. I am a community activist. I serve as chair of our public safety committee for our community group and as vice chair of public safety committee for NPUI. And I am interested in this position because it gives me an opportunity to continue my work as an activist and to also share my experiences with newcomers, if you will. But most importantly, it's something that I feel pretty strongly about.
Are there any questions for Ms. Lloyd? Mr. Hunter?
What are your thoughts on the 21st century policing policy pillars that has been laid out? I think it started with the Obama administration that have been carrying out since the times of many things that have happened throughout the last few years, from the shot killing in Atlanta and all across the United States. These pillars have really been highlighting some things, and one of the things our ACRB has gained strength from is from this policy. So what are your thoughts on it?
Can you give me a bit more information on the pillars?
You're not familiar with the 21st
I didn't say
century?
I wasn't familiar, but could you just
Building
refresh?
trust and legitimacy, policy and oversight, technology and social media, community policing, and crime reduction.
Those are all important pillars. And there are points, yes, that I do agree with, and I would have to go back and review everything before I can give you a wholesale yes or no.
So what's your position on community policing?
On community policing, I think it's necessary. That is a job that, well, policing is a job that cannot be done solely by the police. There has to be input from the community. There have to be standards within communities that certain actions will not be tolerated, and those things can translate into assistance for policing.
Yes, welcome, Ms. Lloyd. Have you had a chance to view any of the recordings, meeting recordings, and get a little idea of the machinations of the board itself?
What?
Have you had a chance to go back and review any of the recordings or attend any of the board meetings to get a bit of an idea of what's involved?
I have not,
The ACRB, that is.
I have not, but I'm familiar with it.
I just want you to, that's not a trick question. Just wanted to tell you there's some old archives during the pandemic where you could actually see and hear the machinations of the board. And of course, the ACRBgov.org site is a real good one. And I want to tell you, a third of the personnel there on the board are of military background. So I think it gives some insight into process and procedure.
So,
Yeah, I had a question, not for the applicant, but about the process. Is that the time for this?
Let's get questions for Ms. Lloyd, and then we can look for questions of the process. Oh, keep on list for that. Ms. Flowers?
Yes, Ms. Moore, can you explain your relationship, your role at the Atlanta Police Department?
Before retirement?
Yes, before retirement.
Yes. I did accounting, and I was also very active in other activities within the department. I was on the awards committee. I was on the accident review board, and I was just very active with within other organizations within the department.
So your role was more around your job, just role, not your volunteer part of it, but it was around administration, the accounting part of the job, not in the field.
I was not an officer. So I was, civilian employee. I was more related to administrative work, but it was administrative work. Okay.
Ms. White, when did you retire? If I could ask the year, I'm curious as to how long ago it was that you were employed with.
2009, May of 2009. Sherman?
Yeah, you said when you were involved with the Atlanta City Police Department, you said would you consider yourself as a proponent then? And you also stated that you would be an activist in your role for the ACRB. How would you differentiate it? Is that a change of sides?
How did I what?
You said you were a proponent, or you were a proponent when you were involved with the police department, and you said that you want to be an activist while representing ACRB. Can you differentiate between the two of being an activist? What have you? How do you feel you'd be an activist for the ACRB?
How would I be an activist?
Yes.
For ACRB?
Yes, in that role.
My experience has given me a background where I am very familiar with SOPs and other policies that exist within the department. So I would use that in order to fulfill my role there with ACRB. Mr. Martin?
Did you retire under a pension plan that is managed by the city?
Yes. I was one of the few last fortunate ones. Mr. Hunter?
I still want to get more of your philosophy in terms of citizen and police interactions. You know, on this board, what rises to the level of it being there is that a citizen has complained that something was done to them by an officer, right? And this is their process in which to air out that grievance. So I want to understand, want to get more so, what is your viewpoint, your approach to those types of situations? Being that you have been employed with the department in the past for so long. I want to make sure that there's a clarity in terms of how you would approach that. And we all have biases, right? We all do. So how would you check yours if there are any?
So if you're referring to citizens' complaints?
It's the citizen review board. It starts with a complaint because someone is saying an officer or someone from the Atlanta Department of Corrections did this to me. And so now I'm filing a complaint with this board and you are going to review it. That's what that board is for.
Actually, my experience indicates that citizen complaints would go internally first. There is a division within the department that handles citizens' complaints. Madam Chair, I think Ms. Lloyd, what's being asked is because you've been a member and have worked. No, this is what I'm asking, not referring to you. I think what I'm hearing, if not, and if nothing else, that because you've been an insider and a supporter and very active within APD, that for some of us, it may be an inherent conflict now that you're coming to be more neutral and that you've got to make decisions vis-a-vis allegations of misconduct when it comes to APD. I think that's the thrust of what I heard, that is. He may be asking something different, but that's what I think I was hearing from Darwin. Because you're an insider, how now can you resolve that conflict of being unbiased, that conflict of looking at the evidence and saying this officer is wrong, or et cetera? I was a first sergeant, so I had to learn the role of balancing relationships between two groups, meaning the working people and management. So I've learned to do that. I can be objective. I do understand that there will be behavior that would require objectivity. So I don't feel biased at all. I've been away long enough that
I don't have any close relationships with anyone, and well, maybe one or two people, but I am an objective person, so there would be no issue with resolving issues with police. Did I not?
No, I think everybody's listening or to see whether or not they've determined whether there's an inherent bias based on your longevity and the many things you did to incentivize and promote that role, that job.
Even while employed, I was very supportive of there being a separation within the department. There was a certain attitude, if you will, that existed with officers versus civilians, and I was a civilian employee. So my intent was to create a path whereby we could operate separate from the police, which gave me an opportunity to dissolve any bias that could have existed.
Perhaps I misheard or misunderstood. You said you were a civilian employee?
Yes.
Didn't you also say you were a sergeant?
Pardon me, military.
Oh, you were a sergeant in the military, but you're a
Yes.
civilian employee of the police. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So Ms. Lloyd, quick question for you. What is your understanding of what the Atlanta Citizens Review Board does and your role on that board?
My understanding is that the board would review incidents where officers are involved. They would have to make unbiased, objective decisions about the situation.
Scott, you have a question?
So, this application has been talked about for many months. And Mr. Penny said last month he had an applicant that the former president had not entertained while having this application on hold or making some maneuvering for an alternate. I want to know, where is the other application and why are we not considering it?
When I took this position, we did consider that person and they've been reached out to and invited to come to this meeting as well. So there is no putting someone on hold or not moving forward with the process. We move forward with considering applicants until we select some.
I want to hear from the other person. Are we gonna hear from the other person?
They didn't respond.
This one didn't come for 6 months, so I don't understand the
So
process.
let's maintain our decorum and respect, please. Here in her presence, and she's there right before you. We'll refer to her as Miss Lloyd, not this one. Thank you.
It's here now, but what about the other applicant?
They did not respond, so we need to make a decision on Ms. Lloyd's application, or if you want to hear from the other applicant first. It's up to
I would like to
the will of
hear
the
the
board.
other applicant. I mean, I don't know how we can make a informed decision. In my opinion, we need the full slate of information. I am that's mine.
So this is on the agenda for vote today?
It is not for vote because we did not have confirmation of Ms. Lloyd's attendance, even though we sent out a request. I left it there because it's unfinished business, and unfinished business stays on the agenda until it's resolved.
Madam Chair, the vacancy on ACRB has lingered now for almost over a year. We recently seated Ms. Floyd, Dr. Floyd. I would dare say to you all that Dr. Floyd had similar credentials
I think she had a degree in criminology.
No.
She-
No, there's no
That's not true.
comparison, and
She's
it's,
talking about-
it's
No,
more
no, please,
important.
I have the floor, thank you very much, please, thank you. She had similar credentials, she had a background in criminology, I think she had a PhD in criminology.
She does
She
not.
may not.
It's education.
Can you-
She does not.
She,
She has to do.
Ms.
a
Ms.
PhD
Hawkins Lynn has the
education.
floor.
she worked at Fort Mac for over a decade. She got her degree there at St. Leo in criminology. All I'm saying is our real issue at APAB, our real issue is quorum. That many of these slots have gone vacant. Because I have done a 6-year tenure. I will be rolling off and they're likely to keep me for a few months because it takes a period of time to get these folks vetted through public safety, get them vetted, their background check. Their background check can take sometimes months. Background check, public safety, and then presentation before, again, maybe it's APAB, but I am saying, unless there's something compelling, I believe that we're in a situation now where we need APAB, again, where we need APAB to make a decision so that someone can be seated. We have 4 people, which is almost a third of our board that is seated from APAB. And anytime we're missing numbers from APAB, it makes a significant difference in our ability to make a quorum.
Scout?
There is something compelling. This applicant has an inherent bias. She worked for the police department. You cannot dismiss that out of hand. She's still paid by the police department, according to Mr. Martin's question. The other, she doesn't, I'm not clear that she understands what the role of the ACRB is based on the answers to her questions. I'm not clear that she knows what community policing is. Community policing is not the community policing itself. It's having the officers in the community. I'm not sure, there's something compelling, this is not a good application, and it's not good enough to have an appointee. A bad appointee is worse than no appointee. Mr. Penny's appointee has previous experience on another ACRB in another state. A proven record, I would like to hear from that person and not jump to a decision this month because of a pressure for a timeline to do it. I'm opposed.
Mr. Mr. Hunter, do you actually have a question for Ms. Lloyd?
No.
Okay, so, Ms. Lloyd, we thank you very much for your time.
May I respond to-
Go ahead.
I have a degree in criminology. I am paid by the city of Atlanta. I have no inherent biases, and I have worked in a similar capacity where I had to make objective decisions. So I do understand your concern, but at the same time, I understand community policing, and maybe my response wasn't exactly, didn't exactly indicate that, but that's where I am.
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd, thank you. Appreciate your time for you coming out and sharing your history with us. We will now confer as the board about our process, and I'll be communicating with you directly about next steps.
Madam Chair, may I have a moment to correct the record? Dr. Floyd was recommended to this board by me. She has an EDD in education. She has an MED in education, and she has a bachelor's degree in sociology. She does not have a degree in criminology. They do not have similar backgrounds. I just want to correct the record. They do not. The only thing they have in common is they both served in the military. That is it.
They both served in the military.
No,
Sorry,
sorry, you're not
Mr.
recognized.
Hunter has the floor. Thank you.
And also, I would like to make a motion if this is appropriate, if we are because this has been a person that's been before us on and off for several months. And based on the recommendations, I think that we need to continue to look. And so I'm willing to make a motion. I'm prepared to make a motion at this time.
So let me do some clarification for you. The parliamentarian noted that in the bylaws, it states the board's process for selecting appointees to external bodies when it's called upon to do so shall be as follows. The president will nominate a proposed appointee and the board shall confirm or reject the nomination. I was under the assumption that Ms. Phillips in her role as president had actually nominated when Ms. Lloyd, when she was brought before, when the information was brought before the board. I know there was some other recommendations to other entities, but I think, Ms. Phillips, can you clarify, was that an official nomination in your capacity, or was that just bringing the information before the board?
I think we were just bringing the information before the board, this and discussion. So before we actually vote. So you
Okay, so with that being said, I will make another attempt because, not any slight against you, Ms. Lloyd, but because we do have two considerations, two people that are up for this role. I'd like to hear from that other person, so you can make a balanced judgment. If that person does not respond to any further communications, then we'll have to move forward without that other person. Is that fair?
So just to ask them, so is it safe to say this is still open and you are accepting other possible potential people from the NPU's G2L?
Correct.
And technically, so there has not been a nomination made.
Correct.
It's explored.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So there's no point of motion.
Correct.
All that.
Sorry, Mr. Hunter, did you have further? That's fine. Ms. Nguyen, did you have a?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, moving on. We already received an update from bylaws. Mr. Martin, is there an update from CDHS land use zoning?
Well, we had moved 2 resolutions out of committee for the full body. Reference of the resolutions, so testing, sign rewrite, and service quarters. So we didn't have them on this month's agenda. I expect on next month's agenda. I will send you the latest updates on both of those, along with fact sheets for them. We discussed several other matters that probably need to be referred to our new committees, which, since they sort of exist but don't exist yet, it's probably premature to do that. But one of the things we talked about was updating the PDH ordinance, because we had initially recommended doing away with PDH, and this body rejected that recommendation. The other was the changes to the SAT review process, which seems to be broken. So other than that, we have now ceased to exist, so.
Great.
But I still see you.
Bring those, we still see each other. We'll have you bring those resolutions, submit those, we'll put those on the agenda, and what we can do next month is then say which of these should they be referred to.
Those 2 resolutions that I mentioned have already been to this body for informational purposes, so they were referred back as business from the committee when the committee still existed.
So we'll still have to figure out what.
Okay.
There's likewise, we talked to Jim about and discussed it in the CDHS. Richard and I had been working kind of under the transportation committee on a resolution where now is it policy of change.
Hold on just a second. Mr. Martin, do you have any further updates from your, or from the CHS?
Well, Gloria was about to mention, she brought a topic up that wasn't really part of our committee's work, but was something that had come up in the transportation committee at that meeting, which presumably then had never come before this body
as information.
Yeah, no, not as information, but it comes forward. Basically, what happened was we were trying to piggyback with Jim's committee.
So we don't do that. You either need to have a committee meeting that's been publicized or not. And I know that you share the information. So what I'll ask is if you have information that you want to raise or to be considered, part of the process is bring it before the body. And then what we'll do is we'll refer it to committee and then they can work on it there and bring it back, okay?
I think we had brought it before the body to kind of speed it up. Can we have it announced before?
Technically, it's not because you all never formally had a committee meeting.
I think I was advised that it's moved as well.
I've heard that too, but I'm not sure if it is. I mean, but it's smooth, how has it been resolved?
So again, bring that up at the next meeting as new business. And then we'll figure out where to put it in the meeting. Mr. Hunter? Okay. All right, so we've already done the parliamentary introduction. Acknowledgements, Ms. Phillips. That's you, Ms. Phillips.
I'm sorry. She's looking at the agenda like, I didn't see it.
This is I want to, in front of this body, say thank you very much for all your service the past couple of years. I'm stepping into a time where you've already worked through getting us to this place with the new strategic plan, with new structure, making this a much more easy role for me to fill with the energy and time that I have. So I just want to very much give you your flowers for that and appreciate still having you on the board. I actually would have physically had flowers for you today, but apparently it was Valentine's Day on Wednesday.
Should have gone to Kroger.
You still could have brought me some money.
Disclosures.
So we have felt hearts for you, but I do have an arrangement being sent your way from the Sidewalk Garden, which is a locally owned plant and flower shop.
The real holiday's always the 15th.
You should see my kitchen.
And so also, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you on this board. You guys have been working so hard. I've only been here for a year. There are people that have been on here for, but do we have a decade person on here?
Oh, yeah, Jim.
For sure. And then for all the new people that are coming in, looking forward to your ideas, your innovation, your new blood, and bringing some ideas to how we can make sure that this new path forward is effective, as well as strategic, as well as impactful for the people that we represent and serve. Are there any announcements from you all, from your MPUs or your communities?
I don't have an announcement from the issue, but I'm actually attending on the governing board for the inspector general. Still showing Jerry Newman. He has been
Yep, you're right, thank you. Ms. Steins?
I just wanted to introduce myself again, Lisa Steins. I just joined and shared a little love with everybody today. So enjoy the little bonbons. And these are little stickers if you want to keep them.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh, yeah, they were handmade.
At all. I'm with you. No love from me. Just binders.
That's your love language.
Ms. Lauer.
I would just like to share one thing that happened over the NPUB on last Saturday. We had our first youth forum. It was not only for NPUB resident, it was for the City of Atlanta Recreation Center. And we had about maybe 60 youth come out. at that forum, and at that forum, we talked about Justin, oh my God, y'all, rude. We talked about, at that forum, we partnered with the City of Atlanta, the mayor's office, and we used the mayor's yearly youth recommendation that came back from the youth to populate our forum on Saturday. And so we had conflict resolution, we had music, we had podcasts. One of the youth did a podcast with the COO of the City of Atlanta. We had yoga, no, we had Zumba, not yoga. And we had yoga. Yeah, and we had a variety of partners that was there to share the resources with the youth. And so I'm just excited, and thank you all for everybody that supported us. At Trauma Center was there, Chris 180. And so we look forward to doing it again.
Where was this?
It was at Dunbar Recreation Center, and we had youth from Went Park was represented there. The West Side was represented there, so we had a good turnout. So just wanted to.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. And that makes me think of how can we get the youth involved in the CDP update and workshops, because this is impacted by what's happening. And so I would love if maybe consider, is there a youth group that that planners can engage with, if it's those group of kids or some others, so that they can give their input on how land use affects them.
So one of the things I did invite, I encouraged the mayor's office to come and do a presentation with APAB to talk about the year of the youth and the recommendation that was made by the youth, because they were interested in doing it in more MPUs. And so I told them one way they can do it is come in here and present it. But also on my end for MPUV, I'm having a meeting with them in the coming weeks to talk about how we can continue to activate our youth voice inside of the space. And so that would be a great way that we can do that, I think. And you are my neighbor MPU, so we can probably partner on doing something at in the community around getting their voice. Well, you want to partner, anybody want to partner? Come on.
Any other updates, Mrs. Glover?
Yeah, this is just a quick notification. It's a work in progress. We are working with all of the NPUs around Cascade Road. We're trying to get Kaiser Medical Center to expand to a comprehensive medical center. And we're working with the council people, and we've reached out to Invest Atlanta and also they. And so it's a work in progress. We're very excited about it because it would reduce the amount of transportation. If you go to a primary doctor and you're referred to a specialist, you have to drive 14 to 21 miles to get to a specialist. And so the beautiful thing about it is all of the MPUs that are pulling together to help make this happen.
So before we wrap up, if you have any agenda items that you want to be considered, since we don't have anything formally coming out of committees yet, but if there's something that needs to be addressed, or if there's a specific department that you want to come present to us, please let me know. apabatlanta@gmail.com. We are working on getting a schedule out of departments throughout at least the next 3 months, but if there is a pressing issue or a particular department that you want to come at a certain time, please let us know. And Ms. Winter, you guys have some announcements?
Yes, quickly, the email has gone out with the survey for the committee preferences. It shouldn't take longer than 60 seconds. It's just ordering which one is your first choice, what your second choice is, what your third choice is, and whether you want to be on the bylaws working group as well. So truly 60 seconds, you should have the email already. And we'll forward that along to the president once we get responses from everyone. Strategic planning for, I guess, round 2 or the 2024 strategic planning. Our RFQ is in progress, kind of, and I would ask everyone on the board to please save the dates for March 23rd and March 30th. That's the 4th Saturday and the 5th Saturday We'll send out a poll to see if y'all have a preference, and just like we did last year, we'll go with the majority rules. Whatever date works best for the most people.
What is that?
That's for strategic planning for this year. So last year, you all did the strategic planning to get you kind of to deal with some of the structural organizational matters. This year's strategic planning is more so, more geared towards visioning, setting goals, determining a 1, 3, and 5-year plan for the board. Agreeing on identifying the issues that y'all want to tackle, agreeing on a strategy for how to tackle those issues, et cetera.
I think we used to call it a retreat, but we're not supposed to call it a retreat anymore.
A retreat if you want.
Where
I
you
thought
going?
you told us we weren't supposed to call it a retreat.
Oh, I don't remember.
Where are we going?
I mean, it won't be at a cabin, but if you want to call it a retreat, you can.
Okay.
But yeah, it's strategic planning. It's just organizational stuff. Possibly, probably, but I'm not sure yet. We'll send out an email though with that information. And then oh, is it? Okay, we'll find another date. So I'm just trying to get the date on people's calendar as early as possible, but I'll find another date, the 23rd and something else. But save the 23rd for now, and then we'll look at another date. Lastly is we are in conjunction with our NPU 50 activities. We're conducting 4 block parties to unveil our new block party trailer. June, July, and August. We are selecting the neighborhoods somewhat strategically, but if you have a neighborhood in your NPU, or if you'd like to announce to your NPU that we are accepting recommendations, if there are neighborhoods that would love to have a city-sponsored block party in their community, we are looking for the neighborhood association to host the block party, but we will sponsor the block party. And so if you have a neighborhood in your area that's interested and that has a good street for a block party,
Yeah.
please let me know.
So,
No, not a park. This is a block party. This is an old school block party. We're not doing it at parks. Except.
can you tell us what to expect at the kickoff? You keep saying it's important, but I don't know what we're doing.
I keep saying, I didn't say that.
Every time on the NPU
It is very important.
University, you go, and I just want to say.
It is very important. And thank you for coming to NPU University, Amy. You're setting such a great example. Seriously. No, seriously, an example. Generally, the people that need to be there are not there. So I appreciate that you are there.
Jim and I are at every one of them.
Yes, y'all are, even though you don't need to.
Say immensely fine.
Thank you for being there. So the kickoff is really gathering a lot of, I know somebody that came in late and just try to rush me and answer this question. I'm trying to answer her question.
We're at 30 seconds.
I can answer your question after about why the CVP kickoff is so important.
All right, it's 12:31.
All hearts and minds clear?
All right,
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Voice vote?
Yay.
Not a word, not a word about a roll call.
How you even get into consent when you didn't even establish how many people voted?
We can take they're collected.